Market conditions neutral at 7 and 7 here on the daily time frame for S&P futures. We're down a little less than 1% this morning, getting some volatility here at these levels. The levels to be watching for today and this week are going to be this 618 retracement zone of this current downtrend that we've experienced now, this move lower, this bounce back up. We're now retesting that location, and that is a 618 counter trend. This 50% retracement, that's halfway back, testing that, kind of sliding right through that, but there's still a little bit of resistance area that we could be running into up at these ranges. Wouldn't be a bit surprised to see a little bit of consolidation, if not a potential retrace back and retesting that 5,500 location on S&P. That 5,500 level is also on the weekly time frame. We're up above that on the 236. That is in the momentum zone for this overall bull market, this longer perspective. And you see we're kind of flattening out right here and kind of turning back up. We're at the upper end of this trend still, and we could also be approaching this overall trend. We're still in that. We still got that, just kind of the force, the momentum of that downtrend, and it's going to be an interesting decision point to see if there's enough catalyst behind. Now we've got this, most of this is dealing with tariffs, and now maybe the market can start to look forward to see what earnings are going to look like and other factors, kind of maybe get back into productivity, talking about AI again. We'll see what, we'll see what this week's brings. We're seeing S&P closed out majority bullish, pretty strong move on that closing out on Friday. Futures pulling that number back down again, but keep an eye on that. That could be a pretty significant location right here as well. We're also seeing breadth across that 50% line. Up to 56. We're seeing majority bullish here as well on the breadth. Finally getting a shift back here as well on that weekly time frame. So we could really be gathering some momentum here for some upside at these levels. But again, we're pretty extended. We could use a bit of a retracement and a pullback, which would be a great opportunity, in my opinion, to be watching for, adding in on some pullback, even at these levels, starting to deploy some of that cash. VIX, we're seeing it pull back 24 still. Not a lot of change on VIX over the last few sessions. SHY, short end of that yield curve, seeing bond prices pull back over the last couple of days. Pretty significant pullbacks here as well. And TLT, that's the long end of the yield curve, back to majority bearish. Lots of volatility here in the bond market as well. If we look at the rates themselves, the short end of that yield curve seeing some jumpiness, some volatility right here. We're not entirely sure what that price tick is. That's interesting on the 2-year. The 10-year also starting to find some support, moving back up into majority bullish. This was a lot of the issue that we had when we were talking about tariffs a couple of weeks back, but now this rally, and now we've worked on this counter trend. We'll see if we get any support back to the upside. Higher rates and a move higher, significantly higher moving rates in the short end and the long end, the 2-year and the 10-year could also be some additional resistance for markets from these levels. Dow Jones Industrial Average, again, pushing up into that resistance block, this supply block location. You can see that also in the weekly time frame. We're just underneath that breakdown point. This is a pretty interesting and common location for counter trend when we're running back up into this 50% 618 location. Just lots to be, potentially bearishness coming back into the market now that we've had a real good strong rally. But watch for those pullbacks and see if we continue to kind of maintain this bullish structure where we're stair-stepping higher at each of these different levels. We're starting to move. We break through them. We move higher. We hold that level, creates a higher low. That's ultimately what creates and establishes an overall uptrend. Now, we do have some significant support here. That's the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Nasdaq, same story, pushing to majority bullish right here. That's a really strong move. But again, watch this 618 location really across the board in the next day or two and see if we get a retracement pulling back on. That's triple Qs. The Russell 2000 pulling back up into that 382 location. Get a little bit of strength here this last 3 or 4 sessions. These are the small cap names. These are your more aggressive, more risky names that typically lead rallies and lead sell-offs. And so we'll see if we get any more interest than there already has been. It's been relatively soft for most of the year, pulling all the way back from that 240 range into that 180 range. Let's take a look at USO, see if we're finding any kind of support here. We're majority bearish to the downside and potentially testing some of these demand locations now at the underside of that move. It could get a lot of choppiness right around these areas, but we're approaching some potential support ranges on USO, and we'll see if that holds up. Gold, on the other hand, finding support at the 236, gapping a little bit higher today at 305, and so that 236 retracement holding up for gold, at least as of right now. It's pretty extended in that overall trend, starting to see a few of those shorter term trends shift back down again, just based on this retracement where we're at on gold. Silver also pulling back just a little bit, not quite as strong of a pattern as gold. And then the dollar, as it's finding some support here, and gold pulling back, a little bit of a countertrend retracement pattern on the dollar itself. Going back to that futures, let's take a look at a couple of stock ideas for this morning. Seeing some real strength in insurance still. SKWD, nice confirmation bar, big move, big volume here as well. Seeing ADPT, a little bit of a bigger gap here, nice confirmation as well, but moving back into momentum. Sometimes those gaps, maybe give it a little bit of a little time during the day, during the open, watch to see if how deep that retracement looks. Maybe opportunity there as well for some follow through. Some that are a little bit deeper in retracement. PMLR, also nice looking pattern here as well, holding the support level, confirmation bar right at 236, increased volume, and those are a nice looking step. A little bit deeper into the retracement, QBTS, a little bit deeper pattern here, not quite back up into momentum, but this is the quantum name, starting to see some of those awaken potentially, and getting a pretty decent pullback there as well after a lot of the volatility. Once we had that real, this is what demand looks like when you get everybody talking about something and pushes it higher. If that's the only thing that it's based on, it's going to have some volatility, and you just get these swings back and forth. So is it going to start to happen here again? And some of these names we shall see. That'll do it for today's update. Everyone have a fantastic day today.